We can go ahead and get started. Evelyn, you want to kick us off with a roll call?
Trustee Lee,
Here.
Trustee King, Trustee Marcus,
Here.
Vice President Weekly,
Present.
President Wells.
Here. Good evening and welcome to the December 17, 2025 meeting of the Redwood City School Board. It's our last meeting of the calendar year, so buenas noches y bienvenidos. Si requiere interpretación al español, por favor llama al 978-990-5137 y presione 837-7041 y el signo de número. Si asiste a la reunión en persona, solicite un transmisor situado al fondo de la sala. We're so glad that you all joined us here tonight. You're all our partners in education. The board appreciates your participation. If you wish to provide comments on issues of concern, please complete a speaker's card here in person. They're at the entrance to the room, and then you can hand it to Evelyn, or you can fill out the link online if you're attending on Zoom, or if you're in Zoom, you can just raise your hand when the item comes up. If you're addressing a subject that's listed on the agenda, you'll be called at the time that the item is being considered. And if it's not on the agenda, we'll call you shortly during the oral communication agenda item. And to be fair to all speakers, we do limit public comments to 3 minutes per person per topic, unless otherwise noted. Moving on, it's our officers rotation. We do this annually. We rotate left. Shall the rotation commence?
Bef-
Go ahead, Dr. Vega.
Before we begin the rotation, is to make the public aware of why we're doing this and the manner in which we do this each year. It says, each year the governing board shall hold an annual organization meeting in any year in which the regular election of the district board members is conducted. The organization meeting shall be held within 15 days following the second Friday in December after the regular election. During all other years, the meeting may be held on any date in December, but no later than December 20th. During any year in which a regular election is conducted, the board, at the regular meeting held immediately prior to the second Friday in December, shall select the day and time of the organizational meeting. For any other year, the day and the time of the organizational meeting shall be selected at the last regular meeting held immediately before the annual meeting. On behalf of the board, the superintendent shall notify the county of superintendent of schools of the day and time scheduled within 15 days prior to the date of the annual meeting. The superintendent shall now notify in writing board members and members-elect of the date and time schedule for the meeting. At this meeting, we shall assign the following officers through rotation. And before we do that, those of us on cabinet would like to present you with a small little gift. And we want to thank you for your leadership, your hard work, your keeping us on track, and making sure we move in a fashion that is going to make us feel that we are here for one purpose, and that's for the students of Redwood City School District. And you've done that, Mike. So I want to thank you for all you've done this year, working with me, helping me with the agenda, moving it forward. And this is for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll open it. Here we go. Oh, it's so pretty. Yeah, beautiful plaque. Thank you. This is very kind. I appreciate it very much. I'm proud to be on the board, but what I'm really proud of is everyone here. I'm really proud of the district, the care and the passion I see across all the staff, our teachers, our classified professionals, principals, counselors, specialists, the district office team. You show up every day for kids. And I think that's what really makes a difference. You're the ones that are out there that are change agents, and you're really making a difference. So thank you for carrying your students and their families with such commitment and love. I really appreciate it.
Before you get out of that seat, just a quick remark from me as well. Thank you so much for your leadership in the president position. The trustees and I chipped in together. We know that you and your wife really enjoy Lovejoy's Tea House in San Francisco, so we got you a gift card there. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. And side note, I hadn't actually opened the email yet. I don't know why they said viewed, but I did open it. So thank you. I got it. I appreciate it. All right.
All
Now the
right.
rotation.
So we
Okay,
have the
following the bylaws.
rotation. David Weekly becomes the president. Cecilia Marquez, vice president. Jennifer King becomes the clerk. And the representative to San Mateo County Committee on School District Organization, David Lee. And then the liaison to the California School Boards Association and the San Mateo County School Boards Association, Mike Wells. And then, of course, the secretary of the board is the superintendent. All right.
Mike unit, everybody. Politics exposition. Everybody, thank you. Is everybody settled? Yeah. Okay, and with our rotation complete, we are now going to move to changes to the agenda. Do my fellow trustees have any proposed changes to today's agenda? No, seeing none. I would like for somebody to please move to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the agenda passes unanimously. Now we're going to open to public comment. Do we have any people online? I have 3 speaker cards here for in-person, but we'll start with in-person here. And in no particular order, I would like to call Patricia. Yeah. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. You'll see the clock counting down in the front. Thank you, Evelyn, for taking care of the microphone.
Hola a todos. En español voy a hablar.
Es bueno.
Un saludo para todos de la mesa directiva. Es mi segunda vez aquí y estoy un poco nerviosa, pero yo nomás vengo a hablar sobre los maestros de nuestras escuelas y a pedirles por favor support para este nuevo año que viene. Y por los niños. Y por favor, traten de no hacer recortes, porque la verdad es perder un maestro o que se nos vaya y venir uno nuevo es como comenzar de nuevo y se pierde la secuela de la educación de los niños. Y yo les pido por favor eso, que en vez de que los maestros se vayan, mejor denle extra support y como programas extras o algo para que ellos se puedan enriquecer y también los niños puedan lograr, ¿verdad? El enriquecimiento de ellos. Es lo que yo pienso. Eso es todo. Gracias.
Do we have our translator online?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. I will interpret the comment that that parent just said. She said, hello, everyone. Everyone from the board of directors. This is my second time here, so I'm a little nervous. But I just wanted to talk about the teachers in our schools. And I just wanted to ask you guys for support for this new year that's coming. So, and for the students, for the children. So also please try not to make a lot of cuts, because honestly, To lose a teacher if they leave, and when we have a new one, it's just kind of like starting again, and the sequence with the education gets lost. So I'm just asking, please, that instead of teachers leaving, then maybe you guys just give them extra support and extra programs or something so they can have some enrichment, and also students can achieve enrichment. That's what I think. And that would be it. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Patricia. And next up, Agustina Espino.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, the board members. My name is Agustin Espino, and today is special for a few things. My daughter showed to come over and see who I talk to when I come to those meetings, and she want to know who you are and the ones who make those decisions. So that's just one. The other one, thank you, Mike, for carrying. Good job being as the president. It's very appreciative. Thank you. And continue. Also, we want to be here to congratulate Trustee Weekly. Now he's going to be the president of the board. So we are looking forward to work together and see what, as a community, we can do together. I also want to mention to apologize if he, in my frustration, at wanting to see a change in our children's education, I have unintentionally disrespect any of you. Please note that this was not my intention. I genuinely care about the education of our children, and I hope we can work together constructively. I understand firsthand how vital education is. Begin the night, good job for not being educated has awakened me to advocate for education for our kids. I want every child to have a fair chance of life and success, and I hope we can all collectively make a change in those kids' future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agustina. Next up, Maria.
Good evening, board members. Congratulations on all your moving over and everything. It feels like good energy is coming in and moving around, so thank you. I didn't plan on talking today, but we had a chapter meeting the other night, and I had numerous members ask me to bring something to the board, just to mention, and I believe you've heard it before, but the situation still sits, and it's bothering our people. And that's on these surveys that go out to our members. It asks you, what site do you work at? How many years have you worked at? What position do you work? Now, if that can't be honed down to a person or two, our people are not completing surveys because they are concerned that they can be identified at what they honestly want to tell the board. And so if there's any way that you can somehow change your surveys to really make them unanimous so they can freely give you their input. They do understand that you're open to receive emails or whatever, but many of them feel that you're closed off and you get it and you put it aside. So whatever we can do to build a better rapport with the board members, to actually thinking and feeling that the board members care enough to look into the things that we bring to your attention. We're always here for you to ask us questions. If you get information and it doesn't sound quite right, please ask us, because we will give you the documentation or whatever to support what we're trying to tell you. The other thing is, when we talk about reductions and everything, it's very hard for classified because we work in positions that continuously get work on, and we're a person. There is no formula that says this many students at a school gets this many office hours. And now every day, almost, more and more work comes in, just like attendance. When attendance comes in, a robocall is sent to a parent. Shortly after that, we call the parent again to find out what their child isn't there and not cleared. Again later, we have to call again. Now we're informed we have to call the next day and the next day until we get an answer. And we, even for late, you're 2 minutes late, that parent better to call in, or else we have to continuously call you, take our time to do it, and then document every single one of those into the computer as of the reason the child wasn't there, the time, and our initials. I can understand if they're tardy, 30 minutes late, you want to know why. But for 3 minutes late, and the parent forgets to call, that's really not fair to us. So we're getting more and more work that doesn't seem fair to us, but we're not getting more and more help. So we would appreciate if you understand that we would like to have maybe formulas looked at in this district to help the classified staff equal the workload that we're giving to the district. Thank you. And happy holidays. Stay safe.
Happy holidays to you as well. Thank you for your comment. Okay, and with that, I think that's all the in-person comment cards I have. Evelyn, do we have any online?
None online.
None online. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So that then is going to be the end of public comment period. We're on to our discussion items. So we have 7.1, the first reading and discussion of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5125.1, release of directory information. So Mike got us into a wonderful groove with Wendy and with Policy Committee. So Wendy, I don't know if you want to read any of the disclosures covering what we're going to be doing in first reading, or we're good?
I'm happy to proceed how you would like me to for the board policies, especially when there's quite a few. I'm flexible either way.
Sure. I think Mike had a great initiative to kind of batch similar policies, but yeah, so for the first one, were there any comments that people had on 7.1, 5125? No? Okay. All right. Gonna take a pregnant pause. Learned that one from Mike. We're sure? No more comments? Okay. 7.2, first reading and discussion of Board Policy 6162.51, State Academic Achievement Tests. Do people have any comments on this?
I'll just point out that this is like just putting practice into policy. It's something that we're already doing here, so it looks like the policy is just there, so it seems fine to me.
Cool. Okay, just again, trying to emulate Mike here, give people a moment. All right. 7.3, first reading and discussion of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 0430, Comprehensive Local Plan for Special Education.
I did believe that there were a couple comments I can share. So one was a reminder that this would be an updated report like we would have with the special ed director, similar to other board policies that we're gathering to ensure that there are reports, and typically the president and the superintendent will get together to set that calendar. So those would be included. And we have our board policy committee has a special list put together to track the dates. So that was one point. But then also there was another comment. Let me just pull that up really quickly. One suggestion by Trustee Marquez about a small item, not using a abbreviation, but rather a full name. But that was all for this particular one.
Makes sense. Sounds like that'll come back to us with that language in second reading. Great. Are there other comments that my fellow trustees have on 7.3? Okay, moving on. 7.4, first reading and discussion of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6159, Individualized Education Program.
I do have one comment about this one as well. This board policy, when one reads it, might seem a little strange because the law does allow for students to be served from ages 3 to 21, but it's unprecedented to have students of that age in our district. At some times, we may receive a student or continue to see a student that is around 15 before they might go to the high school setting. But I think we thought it was best to leave it in per ed code, but also add those grade levels, preschool through 8th grade, to add more clarity for it. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Any other comments? Nope. Okay. Moving on, 7.5. First reading and discussion of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6159.2, non-public, non-sectarian school and agency services for special education. Okay. Moving on to 7.6, first reading and discussion of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6159.3, appointment of surrogate parent for special education students. Okay. Moving on to 7.7, first reading and discussion of Board Policy 5145.11, questioning and apprehension by law enforcement.
There was an additional comment that was made, which is a great time for a discussion. The Board Policy Committee chose to add a section in there that's highlighted in the marked version regarding when law enforcement would be called upon in the timeliness of a situation that might occur. So I wanted to open up a conversation whether it was clear or unclear that the committee was, except for some extenuating circumstance, as appropriate and practical, the parents would be called.
I had read that paragraph a little bit different. And maybe this is what you meant to say. I thought it was about when the parents would be notified if law enforcement had come to talk to the student. It's not when law enforcement's going to be called. It's
Right, when the
parent-
parents were going to be called.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, did I misspeak? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I thought I heard you say that.
So
it
in
was
a
when-
situation where the police may arrive to question a student, when would the parents be called?
Yeah, yeah. I saw this change. And in fact, I was just going to comment on it too to make sure that we were all kind of in agreement. It looked fine. I think it's moving up in a little bit in advance from waiting until the student had already been had the discussion with law enforcement to as soon as we know that it's going to happen or has happened, going in and notifying. That's sort of the major part of the change, or was there another part to it?
Yes, I think that was the wishes of the committee, except for certain extenuating circumstances.
Right,
which we
like
noted in
in
that.
certain cases, yeah, law enforcement says you can't, or it's a case where we think it might.
Right, where the
Yeah.
principal might have
Yeah.
privy to information
Yeah.
that might be disruptive in that chain of events.
Yeah, makes sense. Did it get legal review? Did it legally comply?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Then it works for me.
Okay. All right. I think we're done with that. We're going to move on to consent items. Just for members of the public, these are things that we approve all in one block. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda here.
I'll move to approve our consent items agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Aye, myself. All right. We are on to 9.1, which is the approval of the 2025-2026 first interim budget report for RCSD. And this is, I believe, where our Chief Business Officer will take the floor.
Good evening, members of the board, the public. Tonight we are presenting the 25-26 first interim report I do want to note that we've made some modifications to the slide deck tonight. It has all the same information, but we tried to update some of the formats. It will be uploaded to the agenda on the website tomorrow after this meeting. I will share, although some of the slides look different, all the information remains the same in the presentation. Perhaps at second interim, some of the information will change or the format of it, but we did make some stylistic changes for this meeting, starting with the cover slide. Going into the first interim report, this is an illustration of our annual budget cycle tonight. We're at the first interim report, which covers financials from July 1st through October 31st of the current fiscal year. This will move us into January with the governor's budget proposal for the 26-27 school year, closely followed by the second interim in March of 26. And then we start the normal process of budget development and LCAP development for public hearing and adoption in June of 26. So going forward, as part of the reason why we're doing this under Ed Code 42130, we are required to not only produce a budget before July 1st of every fiscal year, but also report at first and second interim the financial condition of our district. And with each interim reporting period, we self-assign a certification that's either upheld or approved by the county, which includes positive, meaning we'll meet our financial obligations for the current and 2 out years. Qualified, which means we may not, and negative means we will not. Tonight, circled in green, is positive certification, which we will certify when we submit to the county tomorrow. So on this slide, budget assumptions, these are the assumptions we used that have been updated slightly since budget adoption in June. Important to note that when we talk tonight, we're generally referring to our position, our financial position as compared to budget adoption in June. And these are the assumptions that some of them remain the same. Others were slightly modified, such as enrollment and some of the other figures based on, I'll say, actuals for this year that have already occurred as we are nearing the midway point of the year. The biggest one on this slide that sticks out is the 60.67, our unduplicated pupil count. This number is very important as it drives supplemental and concentration funding, as well as other federal grants and awards to help our students in Redwood City.
And we're holding that projection constant.
We're holding it as constant, for this year and for the 2 out years at this point until enrollment and students are updated on an annual basis. So on this is the same slide that we're used to seeing, just in a little bit of a different format. Our revenue comparison between our adopted budget and our first interim report, and then the difference on that, you can see that all of our revenue sources increased since budget adoption, including our LCFF sources, which were primarily property taxes, our federal revenues, which, although a small part of our overall budget, make a big impact in our classrooms. And we were able to update those numbers where we feel that we will receive this money during the course of this fiscal year and continue to provide the services that that money pays for. Other state revenue and local revenues were updated accordingly. And you can see that total revenues increased by about $13 million since budget adoption in June. On this slide is just a breakdown of the revenue and the percent total for that. At the top is our LCFF base, 87 million plus, that primarily comes from our local property taxes. The LCFF Education Protection Account supplemental concentration, that's the state aid part of basic aid, and then followed by other federal, local, and state revenues, totaling the $157 million at this point. Here's a graphical representation of that same slide, showing the breakdown and being able to easily see that LCF base is our largest funding source for the district. Going into expenditures, this slide, it's the same information that's in the packet as well as the presentation that was included, showing adopted budget, our first interim, and then the revision. With expenditures, if it's negative, that means we have a higher expenditure than we anticipated at budget adoption. All of these numbers, though, are in line with unaudited actuals in the closing of the books that impacted, especially books and supplies and services and other operating expenditures, between unforeseen carryover, as well as some new money coming in that has already been budgeted, are showing up in those line items now. Here is a breakdown by percentage of our expenditures coming straight from our SACS report, certificated classified employee benefits. You'll see on the next slide make up about 77.5% of our total expenditures, followed by book supplies and services and operating expenditures. Of note on here, the capital outlay, a question was raised about this. And this is a capital outlay from Fund 01 for the kitchen upgrades that were completed this past summer using KIT, or Kitchen and Infrastructure and Training funds, that are a fully restricted fund. Although they land in 01, they are only to be used by for child nutrition services. So it's a little odd in recent years to see a large capital expenditure or capital outlay coming out of Fund 01. So on here is a new slide with a tree showing that same slide with the what makes up those areas. The slide we're still developing, but we wanted to try and show something different tonight. So we do have perhaps a redwood tree with the expenditures in there, noting that it is 77.5% of our budget is dedicated to certificated classified personnel and their associated benefits. On the right-hand side, under that gives examples of what falls into those bigger buckets. And we can talk about hallucinations later. President Weekly. On here is our normal Sankey diagram, which could not be easily augmented into this form. And this is revenue and expenditures coming straight from our SACS report, showing the income and then the associated expenditure on the right-hand side, as defined by our SACS code structure. So on this, for board members, this was a slide that had 6 or 7 buckets, or 6 buckets on there. They're broken out into tabs, a little easier to read, I believe, that show what makes up those areas. Classroom salaries, which include both classified and certificated personnel. These are the people that are in our rooms every day. Administration and supervisors, that's once again classified and certificated, that fall into that group. Books and supplies is self-explanatory. Classified support are all of our classified employees who support our schools in various ways, but aren't necessarily in the classroom on a daily basis. Doesn't mean they don't visit the classroom or don't help with student achievement, but their primary focus, or their primary office, I shall say, is not in the classroom. Retirement and benefits, and then services and other operating expenses make up this Sankey diagram that is almost color-coded in the same way the last one was. There's some slight variances with some of the color palettes that we were trying to use on this. But this shows from an expenditure standpoint with those groupings, right? And it's important to note these are grouped for discussion purposes, and the totals equal what's in SACS, right? So this will not be represented in the official report. But for the purposes of this, these numbers do align with what we have expenditures as reported. On here is simply the reimagined ending fund balance sheet that shows our excess or deficiency of revenues over expenditures. We were actually better off coming into first interim than we anticipated at budget adoption. We still see the transfer in. The net increase was also positive in fund balance. Our beginning balance, 17,108,862, and then our ending fund balance, although not a big jump, it's still better than going down. So we are showing the work that's gone on over the last couple of years is starting to pay off. As not that it's over, that we continue it, but we're on the right track as we're getting back to healthy ending fund balances that cover the needs of our district. Multi-year projections, we'll go over this quickly. A couple of highlights on here as we discussed with budget assumptions. Everything's been updated to current with the best information we have at this point. A particular note on this slide is unidentified fiscal stabilization measures that are highlighted in light red and in red font of negative 5.25 million and 3.5 million respectively in the 2 out years. If you recall at budget adoption, both of these numbers were 7.5 million that we needed to reduce by in these 2 years. We were able to show an updated unaudited actuals that brought that number down to 5.5 and 3.5. And as we report now at first interim, we have 5.25 of reductions needed in the 26-27 school year to maintain fiscal solvency. And if those are ongoing reductions, that will eliminate the need for further reductions under this budget model in the 27-28 fiscal year, barring any major or significant changes that would be unforeseen at this point. So the work that started in late August or early September, Dr. Baker, I'm not quite sure on that date, with the, I'll call it the budget committee, looking at our budget closely, looking at what we're spending on, and who we're spending it on, has had preliminary discussions of how this number can be met, that we'll talk about in detail on January 13th at the board study session that will address this 5.25 going forward for inclusion in our second interim report, where I expect this line to be totally removed from our multi-year projection. Going to the components of the ending balance for our multi-year projection, you can see that in each of our 3 years, our current plus our 2 out years, in light green at the bottom, showing that we are good in meeting our minimum reserve for economic uncertainty, which is the reason why we're able to self-certify as positive as we submit the report to the County Office of Education. On this slide, this is the old other fund summary that shows our projected ending fund balances of all of our other funds from Fund 13 to Fund 40. Included now on the slide is a small description of what these funds do, rather than just a name and numbers. So you can see the adopted budget and the ending balance. All of our other fund balances are projected to be positive at the end of the school year. Of note on here, you can see Fund 21, our building fund for major TNS. As other projects are bid and start this year, this number will go down significantly with the phase 2 of the HVAC projects and some of the other small projects that are going on with that. But we are reporting positive in all fund balances at this point for the end of the school year. So as we get near the end of this, we always have a slide on areas of concern or areas we need to monitor. So this has been re-envisioned a little bit as well, stating or showing 6 areas. These are the same that were in the other presentation. Local revenue, still have to keep an eye on our property taxes. Rising costs, STRS, PERS increases. One nice thing that we got in the last 3 to 4 weeks is PERS official announcement that they are projecting downward for next year and the year out, and slightly down, I think, by 0.3% this year. So that helps us, as that is a major cost factor for our classified employee group. Impact of enrollment, right? We are closely monitoring our enrollment for next year with applications for TEK and K right now, as well as looking at potential movement in other grade levels as we look to staff correctly and efficiently for the students that we have. And that's not to eliminate services, that's to provide the necessary services for the students we have, not for the students that we used to have. Facilities, a question came up about this, where's Measure T and Measure S in this? But really, we have aging facilities, and Measure T and Measure S can't pay for everything and can pay for some things that we'll use where appropriate. But we have other things that happen that wouldn't fall under capital facilities projects. We have aging infrastructure and other items that need to be addressed at times in an emergency or very timely manner that we just need to be aware of, right? We're not anticipating anything coming up right now, but we never know when it will. Staffing kind of goes along with enrollment and other programs and services. And then any new policies that may come down that deliver new unfunded mandates or spending expirations that we have to be concerned about as we go forward. So those are all things that we'll continue to closely monitor as a district. So moving on to next steps, January through March, I've already mentioned the governor's budget, proposed budget, including the work on budget decisions starting at the study session on the 13th, going through February 4th, when we'll bring that back to the board for approval for inclusion in the second interim, which happens in early March, which also starts our favorite time of the year, LCAP and budget development time, for to meet the public hearing deadline in early June with adoption at the second or last meeting in June of this fiscal year. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. That slide's not supposed to be there about the first interim report. Thank you.
That redwood's very sneaky. Questions, fellow trustees?
Thanks, Rick, to you and your staff, and I guess all the department heads probably contributed to the budget, for putting it together. First of all, it's predictable. We saw it in unaudited actuals. In fact, when we were talking about it earlier this week, I was like, I feel like I've seen this budget before. So thanks for all the work. I know that's been a lot of work over the last several years of bringing that kind of predictability where we're building a budget that has this predictable outcomes. That's great. I also appreciate the work you've been doing to make this stuff digestible in the presentation, because it can be complicated, particularly when you're looking at a 100, 200 page budget book. So that's really good. I'm supportive of approving the first interim with the positive, certification. At the same time, I'm going to say out loud, when I know we already all know, positive certification is not the same as being a structurally balanced budget. So our out years do rely still on this unidentified stabilization measures, and we're sitting essentially right at the minimum reserve threshold, the state mandated one, and that's about it. Again, I think we all know this too, but as we bring forward our stabilization recommendations in January to the study session, let's just be sure to keep them centered around student outcomes and equity. We really want to protect the investments that are most connected to MTSS, attendance improvements, EL progress. I know the district staff is already thinking that way, and trying to make sure that's come in that. But I just wanted to reiterate it since they're just so foundational to our mission and our LCAP. And our priorities. So, thanks for the budget presentation.
Micah?
I was wondering if we wanted to, I think we discussed a slightly different process for action items of questions.
Motion, second,
discussion.
and then deliberation.
Yeah.
Sure. So perhaps, do people have any questions they would like to ask Rick? Thank you, David. Do people have any questions?
I just want to say, similar to Mike, thank you, Rick, for going over all of this with us and making it as understandable as it possibly can be.
Same comment. Thank you and your team.
All right. Well, I was going to save that for discussion, but basically, I mean, all the things that everyone said. Plus, I'll just put this out here because I asked Rick takes the time to speak with us beforehand, just to give us a preview and walk us through. I am still very much learning how to read the budget, even though I'm seeing it so many different times over and over. And I appreciate the patience that Rick shows. As an example, one of the questions that I'm sure I'm going to ask again is, like, when you see the deltas between some of the expenses, my initial reaction is, whoa, like we must be having some unanticipated expenditure. And then it's like, no, that's not necessarily right. In fact, in this case, it's actually a better thing, or just that we have rollover funds and like we can spend these because we had them, not like there was an emergency. So I'm sure I will ask you again, but I appreciate your continued patience.
And a comment for Rick before we move to deliberation is that I really appreciate that we're still iterating on this. You've been presenting budgets for a long time, but like the fact that you did not just sit back on your laurels of presenting the same way you've always been presenting, are willing to try out new technologies, even if they turn out some very funny looking trees, to try and make it more accessible and legible is great. Like this feels like great forward progress. So thank you for being willing to iterate on a product that's been around forever. Because I think that making our finances legible, it's on the one hand, it feels like a very nerdy bit of accounting, but on the other hand, it's so important for building transparency and trust for people to see, where is this money going? What are we spending on it on? And it's overwhelmingly people who help students, right? And the required infrastructure around that. And just as our budget gets more and more clear, I feel like we'll be able to communicate that message more clearly to the public. So it's really important work. Thank you. Cool. And with that, I would like to ask somebody to move the item to the floor for discussion.
I move for the approval of the 25-26 first interim budget as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All right. And with that, we're not going to vote. We're going to deliberate now. This is a conversation among the board. We're trying this out for, Robert's Rules of Orders and so forth. What do people think? What do people want to see in this? Like, well, one of the reactions that I had, and I would love my fellow board members' input, is what we didn't see here was the board mandated 3% reserve, right? Because like there's been a history of like the state legally requires 3%, and the board had quote required quote an additional 3% on top of that, but like that's actually not held for many, many, many years. And so like at some point, I feel like we should either say, hey, look, we're not actually mandating it because just like de facto we haven't been, or we got to take that seriously and say, no, really, we need to have that in there. And that'll obviously mean cuts because it'll mean keeping that actually in reserve. My druthers are probably the former, but I want to hear what people think.
Sorry, just maybe Rick or David remembers. I feel like we were just reviewing a policy and there was some call out about the board reserve in it. Does that ring a bell? I'll go look for it, but. Or Kathy.
No, I think you're right, and this is on me, but all of us too. To the extent that there is a policy, I think to President Weekly's point, yeah, we should look at it and make sure that we're either abiding by or we're amending so that we're doing it. I think the original question was about what we think about the budget. I think with Mike and all our discussions, I'm generally in favor of approving it. To the secondary question of the 3% piece, I don't think that's something that we're deciding today, but in general, I'm of the same view of like, I don't feel like we have that extra cushion. Like every dollar really matters and we're putting it to use. And so I'd love a reserve. I don't think we're there yet.
Others?
I think having an extra reserve for particularly basic aid district is really important. It's something where, if you're going to end up having, there can be fluctuation in tax properties, there can be unexpected spending. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they can come in, and because the revenue can be variable. However, a reserve is put in there to be able to be spent at a time when there's need. And when a district has a budget that has fiscal stabilization measures that have to be taken in place, that is absolutely the time to be spending from your reserve to make sure that you're able to continue to offer the services that all the students need. So I think that, yeah, I mean, I get that like on the pro side, having the line item in the budget shows that we intend to replenish it at some time. I don't know if we have a policy that talks about when we would start replenishing, but in my mind, that replenishment discussion would happen after the budget has been stabilized. And at some point when we start seeing maybe surplus in revenue, or we have a one-time fund that we decide could go into replenishing the board reserve, or we look at it and we say, yeah, we think we're able to fund everything that we need to do, and we can start squirreling away a small bit and start building it up over time. We're not there right now. So I don't think that this is the time where we put it in, but this could be a time of saying like, hey, if we have a policy that already exists, let's bring that back and make sure that we agree with what the replenishment thing should be. Maybe if we don't have a policy, it's the time to discuss like, what would our policy be, et cetera, et cetera. But to be clear, I don't think we should have an extra reserve on our budget right now because of the situation that our budget is in.
Thank you, Mike.
I mean, I just want to, again, appreciate all the work that the business, office has done. And for quite a few years, we've had that same reserved. And I mean, again, just moving forward with the, what's the committee? The strategic, yes. We'll see what happens and hopefully we'll be in good hands still. I mean, obviously, definitely there will be some cuts, but as far as the reserve goes, I mean, I can't really speak because I don't know 100%, but hopefully we'll be still good.
Okay. So I'm sort of getting a sense of like pushing back on Rick, like get the extra 3% in there like next year. Probably a terrible idea. Don't do it. But maybe there is an action item to remand to perhaps policy committee to go and consider what would appropriate language be about what do we mean by be a board mandated 3% reserve and just a little bit more clarity on that. Because I don't want it to be something that we agreed we do and then we're consistently not doing it. That part doesn't quite feel right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think also you had made a comment to Rick about removing the line or leaving it there. I mean, hopefully our policy will kind of keep us in line and make our decisions in the future, but do we want to keep it there just and have a zero just to note that it's.
I mean, I'll say that there are pros and cons. The pro of leaving the line item there is to remind us that we keeps us from that slippery slope of looking at it and saying, "Hey, we've got our 3% reserve. That's all we need to do," and we're positively certified, and like 5 years from now, everything is great, and then, running into economic uncertainty and being in trouble. So it is a strong reminder that it's there. However, the downside is, of course, that if it does remain just totally unfunded for years, there's like what are you doing? Why are you having, why are you, there's a credibility gap that comes there. So I think that those are the things to toy with. I don't think we should recommend any kind of change on it tonight to put that in. I think that, this would be something that should go back, and I would imagine that what we'd want to do is figure out like what policy do we have in place already? And do we want to, if any, I don't actually know. Okay, great. Do you want to speak to it? Do you know? Yeah.
He's got context.
Yeah. So on November 19th, the board approved Board Policy 3100 budget. And in there's a paragraph on reserve balance, which notes Ed Code 42127.01 in regards to the 3%. And then should the board take action on top of that?
Yeah, so that's the state
Yeah.
mandated one that has
Right.
to be in there. Right.
Well, and it also alludes though to in excess of the 3%.
Right.
So that's in that Board Policy 3100, if you want to reference it another time.
Yeah, perfect. But anyways, I don't think that we should have an excess reserve right now. Yeah, personally.
Okay. So I think it's great that we made motion also from 5.5 to 5.25 in terms of the hole that we have to fill. Obviously, any further backfilling that we can do to go and scrape some pennies together to make the required cuts smaller is going to make it much easier for our strategic budget committee. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Any other further commentary before we go and look to pass the budget? Any other comments? Trustee Lee?
So I just wanted to clarify from what I'm trying to read the 3100 quickly. Based on this, would we be out of compliance? I think what I read is basically we can discuss it, but there's no hard commitment through the policy to have an additional reserve right now. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
just the minimum and then
Okay.
anything extra is bonus.
Got it. Okay. That's okay. Thank you.
All right. And with that, voting yay or nay to go and approve the first interim budget. Yay.
We just had a call. Is that like an all in favor? Are you asking to see who's all in favor?
Because we already moved and seconded to bring it to the floor.
Okay.
This is the president's call for votes on the issue.
And that'll.
So to approve the first interim budget.
Do we want to do like an all in favor and
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Thank you. I'm still learning this, Mike. Thank you. I'm still figuring out how to do this job. Thank you. Okay. So with that, We're now done with 9.1 and we move on to board and superintendent reports. Who would like to go first?
I can start. On Monday, we actually had back-to-backs. You didn't have the back-to-back. We had back-to-backs. There was the 2x2x2 committee with Redwood City School District, with Redwood City Council and the Sequoia Union High School District. Although there was no two from the high school district this time, so I guess it was just 2x2. So during our sharing time, we shared the budget update. John talked a lot about the community engagement that he's leading and everything that's coming through there. We shared with them a little bit of an update on the parcel tax, basically the same information that the board received a few weeks ago. They had seen John's newsletter about the Golden Bell Award, so we got to talk about that for just a little bit more, which was kind of exciting. The city shared with us about the Jefferson Avenue project. They're taking the opportunity for resurfacing between El Camino and Farm Hill to also do some reconfiguration. There's a public hearing on December 22nd. And anyone who's interested should definitely attend, particularly if you think you're going to be impacted. Obviously, the schools and around there, we have, the schools where kids are crossing over Jefferson to get to school, and also Orion is
Including
the
both of my
campus.
kids every
Yeah,
day.
the Orion campus is right there on Jefferson, and obviously it's a major thoroughfare to get up to Roosevelt and any of the other schools that you're going up that way. They touched a little bit on the Mills Hacks contract, but not much more than they're going back to revisit it. The back-to-back was followed with RCTA Climate Committee meeting with Wendy was there and John was there, Patricia, a few other, Anna was there. So, and a lot of the discussion was just centered around how to handle students when, standard PBIS Tier 1 classroom strategies fail to refocus the student. Yeah, that was it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Mike. And yeah, that December 22nd public hearing about Jefferson Avenue, be good for people to attend that because a lot of Orion and the like students do cross that street every day, including both of my sons. So
I was also at the 2x2x2. I have nothing to add. Did a great job, Mike, on recapping that. Also had a policy committee meeting, which you guys continue to see the fruits of that labor. Attended the holiday breakfast that the district hosted for staff and for the school site administrators, which was great. Got to hang out with the Hoover team and meet one of the new APs. So that was fun. And this morning I was able to visit Martin at the Facilities Operations Transportation Office, which was great. Really recommend others to go and take a look for a bunch of reasons. I mean, I'll be honest, like I had to go back to the master facility plan to find the address, even though Dr. Baker gave me the general idea of where it was. So that's where I'm just like, oh, schools. It's like, oh, there's actually a whole bunch of other people who are doing things like all in service of this. So that was great just to obviously talk to Martin, but to meet folks there. I think it's just funny, like whenever we go to all the things RCSD, it's like there's this consistent mindset of grit and like we're just going to keep on doing things with what we have, which is both inspiring, but also like, man, I really wish we could, not just wish there were more than basically enough to do all the things. I think is one of the reasons it was really helpful for me and why I encourage others to go visit is I think we obviously have the mantra of like we're in the budget cuts cycle, really closely monitoring this stuff, and the mantra of like cut away from the classroom because like students first, like it's always that sounds good. Honestly, like I like the idea, but I think it's really important also to understand what the trade-offs are, right? Like when we say that, there are people who are making sacrifices, and you can see that when you go to the facilities and talk to the folks. And like that doesn't mean that that's not the right answer. Like it could still be the right answer, and that's for me personally, that's probably still the right answer. But it is helpful to see in person what that actually means because I think we need to be eyes wide open whenever we make these decisions. But again, it was great. I think I enjoyed seeing Martin. Hopefully, he enjoyed my visit there. And it's pretty quick and just a lot of interesting history back there as well.
thank you so much. Question on the 2x2. It sounds like the 2x2x2 was actually a 2x2 because nobody from the high school showed up, or what?
That's right. They weren't able to attend.
Okay.
Conflict. I'm not sure.
Okay. Is it typical that we don't get people there, or is it unusual that nobody was able to make it there?
This was the first time, in previous instances, it's been a 2x2x1, I think, because I think one of their trustees has showed up,
Okay.
but this is the first time. Yeah.
Just want to make sure we've got good surface area contact there. So
No, this has been great. Actually,
Good.
this has been, I would say, a really engaged 2x2x2. I
Sweet.
don't know I don't remember it meeting. This is my first time on it, but I don't remember it having met as frequently as it is now. We're basically meeting almost every quarter at this point.
There was a more of an effort to do it this year. In the past,
Yeah.
there was always a group that didn't show up. And so we kind of said, do we continue to do this or not? If we're going to continue, then everybody needs to have an obligation.
Yeah.
We're all very, very busy.
Yeah.
And even if one person from the group can show up, we agreed to that, but
Yeah.
we'll move forward.
Next one's March. We'll see.
Okay, because yeah, I would love some findings for like what could we be doing differently to better prepare our students for high school. If that was to come out of the 2x2x2s, that would be delightful finding. Cool. Jennifer.
I don't have much of an update. Was at the policy committee meeting.
Thank you for your policy work.
And I don't have anything to report.
All right, very well. Holiday breakfast was fun. I brought my ugly sweater, got some remarks. It's delightful. All right, so I think that's, oh, and superintendent is part of the superintendent reports.
Everything with the exception of we are now, by we, it's Michelle Ramon and Jorge Quintana. We're finishing up on the base side doing the strategic planning for the budget reduction. And tomorrow's school is Garfield, the last one, Garfield. So
You're seeing pretty good engagement on those meetings? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. And with that, we'd like to move to 11.1, information on San Mateo County Investment Fund, November 2025. Rick, you have the floor.
Any questions?
It's a very short floor, really. Okay. With that, we'll move to section 12, correspondence. Have folks received any written correspondence they'd like to share for the record? Nobody? Okay. I've received a bunch of correspondence from parents and taxpayers alike about a prospective parcel tax and discussing that. I've had conversations with both of the union reps. I love that they're here online and here in person. And so like that's been really great just to have that surface area contact. And also discussions with a number of the different Hispanic leaders that are in the community, some of whom are also here in person and online. So it's been great to have those additional surface area contact about what's on people's minds. Yeah, great. Other correspondence? Nope. Okay, moving on to agenda item 13, other business or suggested items for a future agenda. So at some point, I may look to work with us and some of the things we've talked about in terms of a parking lot and sort of make this maybe at the next meeting a little bit more meaty of a discussion to try and hash through like when do we want to calendar what topics. But for tonight's meeting, not. Any other things that people want to make sure that in finite time that we discuss that are in the hopper of stuff to talk about in future meetings? Okay, if anything occurs to you, please do drop me an email and I will make a best effort to agendize it. I really do care about what all of you think about and what you care about and want to make sure that we get to talking about those things and having meaty conversations about those things as a board. So thank you. All right. So with that, we're going to move to section 14, meeting reflection. How did today's meeting go? What did I screw up? Cecilia, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, definitely a short meeting. I appreciated the presentation from Rick. Obviously bringing us to a positive certification. And again, I look forward to the future of Redwood City. As far as tonight's meeting, I mean, I think you did a good job. Things went smoothly, and so that's it.
Thank you again to ex-President Wells. But yeah, President Weekly, I think you did well today. I think I just probably need another refresher on your whole Roberts Rule formatting, but think it makes sense to just open up discussion and then figure out how we can talk about things a little bit more deeply during the meeting.
Sure. Just to share, the hope is to kind of separate the receiving of information and getting clarifications about what are we talking about from, okay, kind of turn chair, like discussing as a board, what do we think about this? What's our kind of collective take, the actual cogitating about it, instead of just having like back and forth with the speaker. And so Robert's Rules of Orders would say that the deliberation begins after the motion, the second, because the point is to bring the item for discussion to the floor, and by being moved and seconded, it's actually now can be deliberated. And then after deliberation is complete, there's a call for a vote, which I totally botched today, but I will eventually figure out. But that's the intent. Not everything needs deliberation. Sometimes there's just a presentation like, yep, sounds good. But I think sometimes we do need to have like meaty dialogue as a board of trustees to collectively deliberate, like, what do we think about this thing? And to have back and forth and disagreement and changing of minds. And like, that's really the magic, I think, of the board meeting, is that this is our one, lawful place to really hash it out in public. What do we think about this thing? So just where it's required that we have it. If it's not required, there's no need to make a short item long. That's the hope.
Change isn't uncomfortable, but I'm open to trying this because we've switched positions. I already miss my ex neighbor, but I've gained a new neighbor, so I'm very excited about that. No, overall, I think it's good to try the new things. We'll see. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Awesome. Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely bumbled our way through the action items. So I think having some guidelines on how you're expecting it to work, I think might help, and making sure that the board knows that it's going to happen there. And I apologize. I jumped right into our old format right off the bat, having no idea that it was changing today. So, but thank you for steering us back to the new thing. Sure. Yeah, let's try it. Let's see. My one ask though is that we're cognizant of time. I think that, we do want to make sure that we're not taking it and turning it into something that's going to draw out the length of time that we're spending on. It sounds like you only want to do it for action items where there's actually a vote and has to happen there. So when things are on discussion, of course, we would not have a motion at all. But yeah, just be cognizant of time. Evelyn did a great job this year of putting in the pacing guides that are in there. And so let's just make sure that we're sort of able to, stick within there so that these folks can get home and they start so early in the morning and and let them get back to the work that they do every day.
Amen to that. I would say like, I'll be happy with how these things are working overall if I feel like the majority of our time is spent discussing and deliberating student achievement, right? Because boards that spend the majority of their time focused on the student and focused on student achievement have districts in which the students perform disproportionately well. And so like that really should be our focus, is on the students and on student achievement and not on procedural overhead. So I'll try to keep the procedural overhead low and quality of discussion high. That's the goal. Great. I said before, I'll say it again. Rick, I love that you're playing with these formats. We'll work on the hallucinated trees, but like it just as an overall like meta to staff, like using these modern tools that are available and exploring and trying things out to find new ways to communicate more effectively and more efficiently. Not everything's gonna be perfect, but that's understood and that's part of the process. And I love the eagerness to lean in and try it out. So thank you. Cool.
And your frustration of 3 hours trying to
Oh no.
put that.
No, there's some more backstory here.
I had to bring it up.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. Well, hopefully there were some findings and it'll be faster and easier next time. Here, I'll grab you after the meeting, right? Okay. And with that, 15 Board of Trustees meeting calendar. Looks like our future board meetings on the 13th, we have a study session at 6 p.m. On the 14th, we've got a regular meeting. On the 21st, we've got a 5:45 p.m. special meeting that's closed. And then that's followed by a 7 p.m. regular meeting. Any other changes? Everybody's got those things calendared?
Pretty much what Evelyn sends.
Yes.
Maybe I missed it.
You're on there.
I
The
see.
reason why you might have not seen it, it's because someone else sent it. So then I sent it to Cecilia, so I won't reflect on yours, but it is on the calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, I see her on the invite list. And any other changes to the calendar, stuff that's upcoming, Evelyn? Are we good?
No more changes on the ones you already listed.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Thanks for keeping us organized. Okay, and with that, I think that brings us to item 16, which is adjournment, which has a required action.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See, we didn't need to deliberate that one.